Did Apple steal the iPhone 14? We know some big changes are coming in 2022, but what exactly will we see? Is the iPhone 14 taking too much influence from Samsung and Google, or maybe not enough? Let's break down what the iPhone 14 will have, what it should have, and why every single Apple product is stolen. Seriously. And a huge thanks to Truebill for sponsoring this video.
I mean, Picasso had a saying, he said, good artists copy, great artists steal. And we have, always been shameless about stealing great ideas.
You can tell from that clip that Steve Jobs was admittedly shameless about Apple stealing good ideas. And I don't know if we all really took him as seriously as we should have, which sort of begs the question today, is Apple stealing too many features from Android flagship phones? Or maybe not enough. The iPhone 14 is set to launch in 2022 and will bring with it some of the biggest changes we have seen come to the iPhone in many, many years. Now the iPhone 11, the 12, the 13 series, they're not bad upgrades, don't get me wrong, but it hasn't really been since 2017 and the introduction of the iPhone 10 that everything changed. Apple threw their entire design book out the window, they gave us some new technology. That was one of the biggest upgrades we've seen in quite some time. And hopefully that is gonna be the same story with the iPhone 14 in just a few months from now. It looks like, at least on some models of the iPhone 14 Pro, that Apple is gonna take a page from Samsung, Google, and other Android flagship makers and not only get rid of the notch, but give us a small hole punch cutout near the top of the display, basically still giving you a good front-facing selfie camera, but hiding a lot of the complex technology under the display. Basically sort of a mixture of what we have on Android with Apple's own style in there as well with their FaceID system. Now this rumor has sort of been controversial because many think that Apple sort of adopting this from Android wouldn't really set the iPhone 14 apart, that it would look like every other slab of glass with a little hole punch on the display that exists already in the smartphone ecosystem today. How would you know the iPhone 14 was different from an Android flagship? Many think the notch, love it or hate it, was at least Apple's way to sort of separate their products from every other one on the shelf, so to speak. Another feature that Apple has been rumored to sort of lift from Android and bring over to the iPhone has been this combination of both Face ID and Touch ID. We've seen sort of this technology exist on Android phones for years, where you sort of have the convenience and ease of use of the face unlock with the more sort of complex, secure fingerprint reader built under the display, so you sort of have the best of both worlds. And this was a heavy rumor on the iPhone 13 that Apple was going to bring this technology over, sort of adopt, take a page from the Android playbook, but also sort of put their own spin on it. So you'd have the power and the security of Face ID in the TrueDepth system with sort of the convenience of Touch ID built under the display. That would be really cool to see on the iPhone 14. It's unconfirmed as of right now it's happening, but Apple, if you're looking for something to steal, steal that. Another longtime Android feature that Apple has been rumored to bring over to the iPhone is also an always-on display. This was again a very popular rumor with the iPhone 13 Pro. It was gonna happen, the technology was there. It's been on Android for years and years, and Apple was finally gonna bring it over to the iOS side, and that again didn't happen, but there are some rumors that it could be coming to the iPhone 14. So maybe taking a page from Android's playbook isn't necessarily a bad thing if it gives us some really cool features on our iOS devices. And for many, many years, as long as I can remember, this idea of companies stealing others' ideas has always sort of existed. Samsung's ripping off Apple, Apple stealing this from OnePlus or Google. There's always this conversation of Apple stealing features from Android, Android stealing features from the iPhone. It's always sort of existed and been sort of as a talking point on popular YouTube channels. But putting all that to the wayside, even if Apple was to completely rip off the design of the Google Pixel 6 Pro or steal all of the flagship features of a new Samsung phone, none of those would hold a candle to what Apple has done to this man, Dieter Rams, because over and over again, they have stolen his design elements, his design choices, and even some of his designs pixel for pixel. And the surprising thing about the story is that Apple hasn't been ashamed to do it. They've been proud about it, and Dieter Rams himself is happy Apple has sort of copied his homework. Now, Dieter Rams is a fascinating man, and I wish I had like 25 minutes to give you his whole life story because it is fascinating, but for the sake of simplicity and for the sake of time, let me sort of give you the highlights and tell you how this man has an incredible connection not only to Apple, but some direct connections to both Steve Jobs and Johnny Ive. Now, I'm gonna venture to guess that most of you guys haven't heard of Dieter Rams, but if you haven't heard his name, you've undoubtedly in one form or another seen his work. He was the chief design officer at Braun from 1961 through 1995, and yes, I'm talking about Braun, the company that we think of that just makes razors these days. It was a company that was doing so much more back in the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s. They were making music players, radio cabinets, clocks, and even juicers, with this particular juicer catching the eye of a young boy named Johnny Ive. Yes, that Johnny Ive was inspired by this juicer, made by Braun and designed by Dieter Rams. In fact, this juicer was such a big deal to Johnny Ive that he wrote about it in the foreword that was in a book about Dieter Rams. And speaking of that book, does it sort of look familiar? Keen-eyed among you, those true Apple enthusiasts, might remember this. This was a design book that Apple put out a few years ago that looks strikingly similar to this book all about Dieter Rams and his designs. Throughout his time at Braun, Dieter Rams designed some incredible products that embodied the principles of what he considered to be good design. They were honest, long-lasting, innovative, minimal, and environmentally friendly, just to name a few. And take a look at Dieter Rams' design principles and tell me that they did not make their way word for word into Apple's secret design playbook. This basically sounds like Apple marketing talk first and foremost, but oh boy, there is more. To really understand how Johnny Ive and Apple were inspired by Dieter Rams' work, you gotta look no further than some of Apple's most popular products and how they look side by side to some Braun products designed by Dieter Rams. For example, here's the original iPod. It's 1,000 songs in your pocket. It changed the music industry forever. And here it is right next to a Braun T3 radio designed by Dieter Rams. Then there's this old Firewire iSight camera. It was a really cool webcam Apple made a number of years ago, next to a Braun IR emitter. But the influence goes way beyond hardware. It even existed in Apple software. One of the best examples is with the original calculator app on the very first iPhone. It had a very striking design that was very noticeable. It looked great, but it was also sort of a carbon copy to a Braun calculator designed by Dieter Rams. Also, look at the world clocks that existed in the clock app on iOS 7, and then take a look at these clocks designed by Dieter Rams. The similarities here are undeniable. Now, before we continue, let's take a quick break because I want to tell you all a bit about this video's sponsor, Truebill. As we start a new year and enter into 2022, there has never been a better time than right now to finally tackle your personal finances. You want to lower your bills, you want to build up your credit, and stick to a budget that has been custom made for you and your spending. That is where the power of Truebill comes in. It's an all-in-one personal finance app that is here to help you do all of that, plus a whole lot more. Truebill makes managing your personal finances super easy. You can see your most important info at a glance right on the dashboard, including things like credit card balances, savings, investments, and more. But personally, one of my favorite features of Truebill is not only can you easily manage all of your monthly subscription services within the app, but you can easily cancel any of those subscriptions with just a couple of simple taps. Truebill has also got some powerful built-in tools to automatically track your spending and to help you sort of build and stick to a budget, and a really cool feature that'll help you lower your bill. Truebill can negotiate your bills to try to get you a lower price. So learn more and get started today by hitting the link down below or by going to truebill.com/AppleCircle. Learn more, get started today. Do not put this off. Now is the time, and Truebill is a great way to make it happen, makes it easy, makes it simple, and just does a lot of the hard work for you. So learn more again at the link down below or by going to truebill.com/AppleCircle. Now, before you grab your pitchforks and think I exposed something, let me be clear that this is not a scandal. You can all relax. This is just something that has existed for many, many years. It is not some kind of secret in the tech world. It's not really a secret at all. Both Johnny Ive and Dieter Rams have talked very openly about the other and their admiration for the other's work. In fact, Johnny Ive, who is a world-renowned designer and considered to be, one of the best industrial designers of our time, was so enamored with Dieter Rams' work, he called it beyond improvement. And that's a lot coming from Johnny Ive. And there is so much more I can unpack here about Dieter Rams' thoughts on Apple and what he thought about Johnny Ive and Steve Jobs. And if you want to see that video, let me know down below because it is a fascinating story to tell. But to keep things simple, Apple took a lot of inspiration from Dieter Rams's work. They really try to embody his design principles in everything that they do, and I don't necessarily think that this theft, this stolen design language, is necessarily a bad thing, because there's way more to it than that. When it comes down to it, anyone can copy someone else's work. We see it done all the time, every single day. There are tons of Apple clones that exist, and there's no denying that Apple has taken some heavy influence and heavy inspiration from Samsung, Google, OnePlus, and others. iOS has taken some inspiration from Android, and I think it's better because of that. And the same can be said for Android taking some inspiration from iOS, but there's way more to it than just copying a design. I think that what Apple has shown off time and time again is that it's not just enough to have the form, but you've also got to have the function. It's what Steve Jobs loved to call the intersection of technology and liberal arts, coming together to give you a really amazing product that seemed to check all the boxes. And we've seen times that Apple has focused way too much on form over function. Look at the trash can Mac Pro, or look at the butterfly keyboard. Many other products have existed and still exist today that put way too much emphasis on design before they really even thought about functionality. But when Apple has gotten it right, when they've got a really great design that looks amazing, is sleek, it's simple, but they've also got the functionality to back it up in terms of software and hardware functionality, that's where things sort of seem like magic. And the iPhone 14 can be a carbon copy of the Pixel 6 Pro or the Samsung S21 Ultra or whatever it happens to be, but if it doesn't have the functionality to back it up, then it's sort of worthless. So I'm really not sure what the iPhone 14 is going to look like. It could look like an Android flagship. It could have that hole punch notch and it'll look just like a Pixel 6 Pro on the front. It could look that way. But I think that what Apple has proven time and time again is, despite any inspiration they have taken or features they have brought over, it's really the implementation that matters most. And I am super excited to see sort of this combination of Apple doing what they've done so well, bringing this iPhone 4-esque design of the iPhone 14, but also taking some cues from some companies that have been doing things better, getting rid of the notch, giving us a higher megapixel camera, giving us hopefully some under-display fingerprint technologies. That is super cool to see. And of course, we could argue all day about who's copying who does what better, but at the end of the day, it's all about having both form and function. And again, when Apple does both, it almost seems to work like magic. So what are your thoughts on the iPhone 14 Pro? What do you think this phone needs to have? What should it have? What features should it steal from Android phones? What should Apple improve on that they've already been doing? What do you think the iPhone 14 should look like? And what are your thoughts on Apple's interesting design choices? Do you think sometimes they put too much emphasis on form over function, or maybe now they're doing more function over form? What are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comments down below. This incredible story of Dieter Rams and sort of your thoughts on it, and we can all discuss together some of Apple's more interesting moves over the years. As always, thank you guys so much for watching the Apple Circle. I appreciate it. I'm Robert Rosenfeld, and I will see you all in the next one.